Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Today we are going to do something that's a bit different. We are going to create an app from scratch, and the way we want to do it is basically we'll create an MVP and then we'll kind of refine it. It won't be like the whole app. I just want to get the idea done so you can see how I like prototype things, how I like to prototype things, and hopefully it will be fun. So let's just jump right into it. Alrighty, wrong screen, one sec. Okay, so here I will just, create a new Laravel project. We'll call it Mockup generator because that's what we are going to be doing today. The reason for that is that, I have this shop here, this shop thingy. Problem is that when I add a poster, and today is Valentine's, so you have some Valentine posters. But when you add a poster, you need to create those previews, and adding those by hand is freaking hard. So what we'll do today is create an app that will be able to generate those. So this should be fun. So either way, we need to wait like 10,000 years for this to install. And after this is done, we'll start coding. Now we just need to set up the Docker. So it will create. And this is great. Now let's just jump into our container. And from here, we want to do sail publish because we will need to override our default Docker configuration. So as you may or may not know, in PHP, if you want to play with image generation, you'll install this thing called Imagic. I have no clue how to actually pronounce that. So yeah, either way, we'll need that Imagic thingy, and we'll need also PHP GD, which is also something that's useful when it comes to image generation. So I'll just paste these two bad boys here. And this should install the appropriate extensions. So now we'll just exit out of this. Let's do sail down. And there is one more thing which I have to change because I hate that it's called Laravel test. I just call it PHP. Now we just need to regenerate the container. So we need to do vendor bin sail build no cache. And just wait a bit for it to regenerate. And our app should be up and running. So let me just see the localhost. And oh, we have the new Laravel 10. That's pretty cool. I didn't know if that it was out already. So yeah, let's start with removing this new screen that somebody worked hard to build because we don't actually need it. And let's just replace our web.php. So here we can just return, an empty string or something like welcome. Not important, but yeah, it works. Okay. So what do we want to do in our project? We basically need to have a way to add a PSD file. So that would be a Photoshop file. And we want to iterate over all of the layers in the PSD file. And if any of the names of these layers starts with a hash, then we want to replace that with an image that we'll provide via the API. So let's start by going to our API route. And right here, we can see that we have Sanctum installed. So this is pretty great. Because now what we can do is we can do PHP artisan tinker, then do user first, which we don't have. We don't even have a database for it. All right, let's create a database. So let's do PHP artisan migrate. Now we have the database. Now let's do tinker, grab the first user, which we don't have. I will just create one from scratch. I think we have a factory create. That should work. Yeah. And now for this user, we'll create a token, I think. Test. Yeah. And now we need to copy this plain text token. Alrighty. So I just opened Postman, and here, yeah, let's do a request to localhost. And we'll do localhost API user. Let's send that request. You can see that there is no route login that's defined. Yeah, that's fine for now. We'll just make sure that we pass the bearer token. Let's just paste our token here and send that request. And here we can see the details of our user being returned. So that's pretty great. But yeah, let's maybe remove that and just do a group here, function. And here we'll define this root get user controller class and create that. So in our app HTTP controllers, let's remove the base controller because we don't need this. So let's create a new directory, and here, we'll just call it API. And here we'll create our user controller. So this it's not important, but just so we have a route, we can do request here, and we can simply return request user for now. Later on, we can create a resource. Yeah, it still works. And we have a way of accessing the API now. So now let's get to the juicy part. What we want to do is have an endpoint that we'll be able to post to. And, it will be something like Mockup generate. And here we obviously, need a controller. So let me create one. Generate Mockup controller. Maybe Mockup generate controller. I think that's better. Mockup generates controller. Righty, let's import it here. So yeah, we basically want to have a way to do something like this, and we would pass some payloads, and that method would return to us a URL of an image that's posted or stored in S3 or anywhere else. All right, so let's do it. So first of all, we need a way to differentiate between different mockups. And, probably the easiest way to do this is to create a model. Maybe let's create a team. So, team could have multiple users, and then the team would be the owner of these mockups. So let's create a team. Let's create a mockup. And let's create something like, mockup output. So this would be a model that would contain the results of our mockup generation. So we could access it later in our panel, or just for tracking purposes. So let's create this model as well. So we have our teams table. So the teams would obviously have a name. We also need to make migration, add team ID to users table. Then our mockups, for now, need a name probably. We need a path to the disk. We need a foreign ID for the team ID. That should probably be indexed, so we can query it faster. And for now, I think that's it. Now our mockup outputs would obviously have a foreign ID. That would have the mockup ID. And this would also have a path. I think that's it. And then we need to add a team ID. So foreign ID, their ID, and that probably also needs an index. So now let's migrate all of that. Cool. Now we forgot about the down methods. Yeah, okay. So now let's create a team. Name will be test. Oh boy, we get the worst error ever. So let's just add guarded here, or we can go to app service provider. And here we can do eloquence model on guard. So yeah, in our team here now we should be able to do it, and it works. And now we just need to update our user. TeamID equals 1. So we have a user. That user has a team. Now the team needs to have access to mockups. So we should probably define these relationships. And basically a team has many mockup class. All right. So we obviously need a way to import a mockup. And to import a mockup, we need a file. All right. So yeah, we'll basically start with our storage and then we can extend to S3. I don't know if this will be in this video, but you know, S3 is pretty simple. You install an adapter and then it basically works. Either way, we should probably do storage link for now. And this will link our public directory with our storage. So let's create like an input directory here. And I will paste a mockup here. And here you can see that this mockup has a layer called test. We know that we need a mockup, so let's create one. So we'll take the first team and we'll create a mockup. So we need a name called, let's call it wall poster. I don't know. The path would be, let's do a full path. So input mockup.psd, I think, right? Storage get input mockup psd. The input should be one layer above. It should be in the app because the input shouldn't be public. The output should be in the public directory. So yeah, this is perfect. Now our input PSD will work. It will lag because it's like 60 megabyte file, but who cares? So all right, so we have our mockup created. So let's go to our controller, and here we'll get the mockup. We obviously like need to verify it, you know, if mockup, for now it's still prototyping. The team ID of mockup is different than request user team ID, then return response JSON. Naughty boy. And here we can do like 403. But yeah, now we basically know that the person can access the mockup. So now what do we do? Well, we need a way to read the file. So in order to do this, you know, we could directly utilize the Imagic, or we could use a cool library. I'm going to do the latter. So let's do composer require, not install. And let's wait for it to be pulled into our project. So first of all, you know, we need to load that image somehow. So let's create a new object here called imagine, and we'll use the Imagic version because this library supports a couple of ways of doing that. You can see one for the GD, one for Gmagic, and one for Imagic. So let's just roll with this. I don't know why, I just have some experience with this one. So yeah, after you have this new instance, what you can do is in the image, it should be imagine, and now we can like read the image data. So the way we do this is we call imagine read, and then here we pass a resource. So a resource would be something like a stream, or so we can do storage read stream, and then pass the mockup path. And now we want to DD like image layers to see if even reads any data. You can see that it takes a while, so I either crashed everything or it maybe is working. All right. Okay, so we have our layers here. And let's just do for each layers as layer. And here, we need a way to get the label of this given layer. We can do by doing something like layer get imagic get image property, and here we pass the property, I think. Let's see if this even works. So again, let's just send a dummy request. We got false. The thing is that for some reason, the first layer, when a PSD file is read, the first layer would contain like the whole preview, which we don't want to have. So if there is no index, so basically, if the index is 0, we basically want to skip that. So now if we send this request, we can see that we are getting background, and this is actually a name, which is pretty cool. So now we need to find a way to check if it starts with hashtag. So we'll do string of label. Let's do lower. Why not? Starts with the lower is useless. I know. So this basically means that we have a layer that starts with hashtag, and here we can do we can do something like label index. We'll probably need an index to replace that image. We need width of this layer, and we need the height. Okay, so we can do something like size equals layer get size, and this will return us an array or an object that contains some data we can query. We can do like get width, and we can do get height. And this in theory should work. So now if we send a request, we get all the data. So that's really amazing. So these would be the layers that we need to replace, right? So yeah, this would, add some data to our request. So type an empty array. Now we append this data, and after this entire thing is done, we could replace our images. What we would do now is iterate over every data as layer to replace. And here we would basically have to get image from the request. And this would be like an URL. So this would be like a string. And then we would just replace that layer. So we do something like replacement layer equals, margin read. And here we could do something like fopen the file from the request. So we could do like request get replacement fopen. Would get the replacement, and we would open it in read mode. And this is not ideal, but we can replace that later. Okay, so now we would do this layers get. Here we can paste an offset, so we can use our layer to replace and get the index. And then we can paste our new image. And here, you get two values. You paste the image, and then you get the start. So the start would be coordinates. Have the placement layer, And then the other thing would be a coordinate. So we can do like new point and we can pass 0, 0 here. And then we just need to do layers, set layer to replace int. And then pass the replacement. And we also need to remove this first layer that contains this like whole preview of the image. And now what we could do is we could create like a dummy view. So it's resources views, do something like test.play.php, and we could do image source, see, like that. Again, now we can do return view test and pass the source, so a URL, and the URL would be storage boot. Here would we need a random name for now. Let's do string. Yeah, not storage. Random .png. And here we can image get png. Let's save that and give it a try. Path cannot be empty in file 50. Right, guess we didn't pass our replacements. Let's use the form data to pass a replacement. Now we can only have one, and let's grab an image from the website. Send it to that file. Okay, so I will just use image. Let's send it. All right, so for some reason my OBS decided that it will crash, but yeah, that's all right. So here we can see that we got something back. And in our storage, we can see that it actually returns something. It's not ideal. We'll fix that in a second, but it returns something. Why does it not? Oh, right, because I'm a Dumbo. I was generating the random twice. Let's just do, output path and do path as well. And this would be string random, obviously. So let's go to Postman and send that again. Not this one, this one. Oh, come on. All right, so let's just use a full path for that. We'll just, I just added the URL, and here, if we see, we have this image, and we'll need a way to resize this layer to the original. So we'll just call resize, and I think we need to provide a new box and pass the layer to replace width and layer to replace height. So if we send it now, hey, it works. And as long as the image that's provided is big enough, this also shouldn't cause any problems. In this example, one is kind of small. Just use the other version. And yeah, it looks much better and does the job. That's pretty cool. Now, is this production ready? It's obviously not. It's probably will never be. For my specific use case, is this enough? Yes. But can we make it better? Probably. First of all, the first thing that we need to do is generate the output for the mockup, right? Because we were supposed to track the usage. So let's create a link to outputs. So this has many outputs, mockup outputs. Let's just add the relation, return type here. So now we can just do, path equals output path. We can replace it, remove it altogether. So and just return, response JSON. URL equals to path. So we can do like a helper calls path URL. Sorry. Outputs. And in the mockup output, we can do public function URL, and this would return URL from this path. And this will be a string. Let me just see, create mockup outputs. Yeah, we have mockup ID and path. That's fine. So that's pretty cool. Okay, so like to me, this is good for my use case. However, we can make it better. So first of all, this is like not ideal. That's, we need to iterate over all those layers and then like check if they're proper ones. It's honestly fine, but we could make it easier. So like if we split this process into two steps, so we have, the import piece and then the export piece, it would be quite simpler, I think. So maybe let's start by, creating a service. Let's call it mockup service. And this will have two functions. It will have one called generate, and it will have one called import. So the import function will take, we'll get a theme, and we'll get a string. And let's call it a day because this video is not about DTOs, but this should obviously be a DTO. But let's don't be so uptight here. You know what? Maybe let's just pass a mockup here, so it will like have the mockup itself, and then it will import based on that. So we could definitely create like a function that would be a helper called, read, and this could get a mockup, and this would basically return that. So we could return the thing here, and we can add a return type if we want to, maybe image interface. Yeah, okay. Okay, so in our import method, we can now copy this piece, paste it here. So the image would be this read mockup. We'd have our layers. We can replace the data with like outputs, it's whatever. Yeah, we would iterate over that. And here, what we could do is we'd create a new model. So we could do make model, maybe mockup layer, this would have migration. And here we could, obviously have the foreign ID of mockup ID, which would have an index. And then we need those four things that we have, right? So we need a label, index, probably an unsigned integer for the width, and unsigned integer for the height. So yeah, like here for each output as layer data, we could do mockup layers, which we don't have yet, create. And we would do this, and now we could return the mockup. But yeah, let us create this relationship here. So let's create a public function called layers. And this would return, this has many mockup layer class. All right. And we could basically, pass the layer data here. And that should work. So let me just run the migration. And what we can do, we can create a new comment. So let's do just that, PHP artisan make comments, import mockup comments. All right, so here we need a signature. We'll do mockup import and then mockup ID. In the description, import mockup layers. And here, we can like add a safety. So, well, first of all, we need to fetch the mockup. So the mockup ID would be this, I think, arguments. Let me just delete that because I always forget PHP artisan mockup import one, and this returns one. Okay, great. So our mockup would be mockup find or fail mockup ID. All right, so if our mockup already has layers, then we'll return this error mockup already imported. The void kinda, yeah. All right, this is okay. Let's do this and then this. However, if it doesn't have layers, we'll just, do mockup service, import, and then do mockup imported. It has mockup layers count layers. And this shouldn't be a return name, sorry. So yeah, let's just run it for our, wait, it already has mockup layers. How is it already imported? Did we? Wait. Why was this passing? Okay. Either way. Mockup imported, it has one layers. So if we go to Tinker, and let's just do mockup first layers, you can see that it has the label, it has the index, it has all of the data that we need. So this is fantastic. Now we can kind of adjust our controller, because we don't need this piece here at all. We can just do for each mockup layers here to replace, and just replace those with like, index, with height, And here, the index. So yeah, this is, a bit better. Let's copy all of this. Let's create a constructor here. And we can import our mockup service. And let's paste all of our logic here. All right, so this will require a mockup. And we know that this can be simplified. So we have image equals this read mockup. Oh, we imagine here. New imagine. Okay. And we need an array of replacements. Okay. So here we'll be able to do placements and then just get an index, because we could have, more than one layer in an image that would be replaced. And this should probably maybe still work after we adjust the controller. So our output equals this service generate mockup, and then we need to do request get replacements. We'll validate that in a second, don't worry. So let's run this bad boy. Placement. Yeah, it should be an array. Let's do array wrap on this. So we always get an array, and let's just send it. Interesting. Oh, the problem is that we saved the index as a string for some reason. It should be an unsigned tiny integer, probably. Let's just migrate rollback, and let's run the migrations again and re-import our mockup. And that's righty. And now we can call it again. Mockup outputs is an undefined function. And yes, it is. It should be mockup outputs. Let's run it again. And it seems to be working. Let's send a request to it. It shouldn't be public, it should be storage. But yeah, it did work. It's pretty freaking rad. Honestly, for our usage, this is probably good enough. I will just do one more thing. So I will replace this URL here. So you'll just do storage URL this path, and let me just retest that. All right, my OBS crashed again. It seems to be a problem with Postman, by the way. It crashes when I do something in Postman. That's pretty weird. Either way, we're supposed to do a validation. So let's create a request. Mockup generates request. And let's paste it here. We just want to validate that the replacement or replacements is an array, is required, and it has an exact size of this route mockup layers count. So this way we, if we have 2 layers, we will do to send 2. And I'm going to risk it all and open Postman again. So yeah, if we, why is it making a request to the, I swear to God, I'm not using Postman again. All right, yeah, so for some reason, Postman really doesn't work with us today. So we are just going to call it a day. This allows us to do some, pretty cool stuff. We can utilize it to generate some cool mockups. So I hope this was fun to you. And if it was, please leave a comment and subscribe. So see you in the next one. Bye.